Homage to fundamental teacher Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to wisdom. Warrior Manjushri, homage to all lineage benevolent masters. The Dharma, infinitely profound and subtle, is rarely encountered even in 1,000,000 eons. Now we are able to hear, study, and follow it. May we fully realize the Tathagata's true meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings from samsara, please generate supreme bodhicitta. Now we will discuss the sufferings of samsara. In the sufferings of samsara, we have explained the higher realms and lower realms, that is, the entire sufferings of the 6 realms have been expounded separately. Yesterday, we concluded with the sufferings of the gods. We also quoted the scriptural testimony of Nagarjuna. First, these celestial beings experience happiness, but afterwards they fall into the 3 lower realms and suffer greatly. I remember in the Sundry Simile Sutra, there is also a story of celestial beings eventually falling into the animal realm. Once the Buddha was going out with his retinue to seek alms, and he saw a sow in a filthy pit, an extremely fat sow surrounded by many piglets. It looked particularly filthy, stupid, and miserable. When the Buddha saw this animal, he smiled and emitted light, which then merged into his chest. At that moment, Venerable Ananda asked for the reason. Why? Because the Buddha generally doesn't smile without reason, unlike some of us. Sometimes we laugh foolishly for no reason. Sometimes we cry for no reason. Generally, the Buddha, whether speaking, crying, or laughing, doesn't do so without special reason. So Ananda asked the Buddha what was the reason. The Buddha then told the entire story. Countless eons ago, there was an old wealthy man who had a daughter of particularly beautiful appearance. After this daughter grew up, her wisdom, compassion, and various virtues and talents were perfectly complete. After growing up, she constantly contemplated samsara and the true nature of life, unlike ordinary worldly women. Ordinary worldly women eat, drink, and make merry, concerned only with their emotions and status, generally nothing else. But she was constantly contemplating various matters of samsara. Later, she posed a question to her parents, saying, "All flows like water currents, worldly joys and sorrows. From where do they originally arise, and when will they come to rest?" The meaning is, all worldly phenomena are like water currents, gone in an instant. Similarly, where do worldly suffering and happiness originally arise from, and when can they finally be brought to cessation? Her parents had no way to answer this question. Although they had wealth, their wisdom was limited, so they couldn't answer. Later, locally, she gathered many Brahmins and wise men, assembling people with wisdom and talent to pose questions to them. Among them was one person who didn't truly understand the doctrine. He didn't understand the teachings. Because he was greedy for her family's wealth, he began to speak nonsense. "I will answer the meaning of this question," he told the woman. "The question you asked, everything is empty and void, absolutely nothing." After he answered, indeed, this woman also began to contemplating that everything is nothing at all. The effect was quite good. Later, she was especially grateful to him, saying she benefited greatly. "Your answer was really excellent." Then she spent all day meditating in the state of nothing at all. After she died, because she had constantly practiced this, she was reborn in the sphere of nothingness in the formless realm. For 40 great eons, she remained absorbed in this kind of concentration. After that ended, she was reborn in the human world as a sow, an extremely ugly animal. It was precisely because at that time this woman didn't have sufficient merit and didn't meet a true spiritual teacher. If she had met a true spiritual teacher, she could have attained the path and achieved liberation. So the spiritual teachers we encounter are indeed particularly important. If you meet a worldly teacher, he might teach you some worldly emptiness, some simple worldly meditation methods. You might feel at the time that it's the true path to liberation, and quite good, but it becomes a cause for becoming an animal, not very meaningful. The Buddhist sutras also say that if a person has concentration but no wisdom, like her, this old sow would continue to wander in the animal realm. So from this principle, we should understand that we must comprehend emptiness and listen to the teachings on emptiness. Now, including some monastics and Dharma teachers who preach to others, either teach some aspects of traditional culture, such as simple texts like standard chapters for students or 1,000-character classic, or they teach others some simple human and heavenly merits. Release more life, eat more vegetarian food, create more merit, bow to Buddha, recite sutras. They don't mention the teachings on emptiness at all. Ultimately, beings' mind streams truly cannot transcend the 3 realms of samsara. This point is very important. Even cultivating some yoga, concentration, always practicing Chan meditation. If you practice Chan meditation all day, temporarily it can certainly bring our mind stream's conceptual thoughts to cessation and stop. But in the long term, whether one can truly achieve liberation from samsara is a particularly difficult matter. So even if reborn in the heavenly realms, one will still eventually wander in samsara. In the Buddhacharita by Ashvaghosha, it says, "The wheel of the 5 paths of birth and death revolves like the many stars rotating. Even the gods undergo change. How could humans remain constant?" The meaning is that the samsara of the 5 paths of birth and death is like many stars rotating in space. Even the beings in the highest heavenly realms eventually undergo change, finally falling into the animal realm or becoming fuel in hellfires. So needless to say about beings in the human realm, human bodies, appearances or lifespans compared to celestial beings are simply incomparable. Therefore, from our hearts, we should develop renunciation or disillusionment toward this world, including the celestial beings. Now, many worldly religions, after leaving this world in this lifetime, wish to be reborn in the heavenly realms. They consider the heavenly realms to be the highest state. Making such aspirations temporarily is not necessarily wrong, but if you truly believe it to be ultimate liberation, actually it cannot liberate you. So many worldly religions now, as I mentioned the other day, are like the human and heavenly vehicles mentioned in the Lankavatara Sutra. After practicing the 10 virtues, being reborn in the desire realm heavens, form realm heavens, or the highest formless realm heavens, you still have to fall down. Like a large stone rolling down from a mountain, it will eventually fall to the ground. It cannot stop midway. Similarly, as long as you are an ordinary being, if your afflictions and cognitive obscurations continue uninterrupted, not burned clean and destroyed by the fire of wisdom, realizing emptiness, then once the conditions are complete, when moisture and sunlight are sufficient, seeds will naturally grow. Similarly, your afflictions are bound by ego clinging, and various karmic forces irrigate them with moisture. After this, they will naturally grow. You will continuously wander in samsara, never able to transcend this space of samsara. So for those present, what's truly crucial is that we must always have the mind of liberation while in samsara, the only method for liberation. On one hand, renounce samsara. Don't have attachment or longing for it. You should want to leave and then abandon it completely, so that after we leave this, we never want to come to the world again. It's like truly seeing it as a person who has fallen into filthy excrement. When you come out, you never want to fall in or stay in there again. Just like this, completely towards samsara, like Rigdzin Jigme Lingpa, the teacher of Patrul Rinpoche, Jigme Gyalwe Nyugu, toward all of samsara's fame, wealth, and riches, completely developed the greatest renunciation. If in our mind streams we truly develop such wisdom, then we have hope for liberation. Otherwise, many people studying Buddhism are completely just superficial actions, merely external behavior. They cannot cut the root or seeds of samsara. From the above reasoning, we can clearly see that no matter where one is reborn among the 6 realms, heavenly realms, asura realms, human realm, or the 3 lower realms below, none depart from the nature of suffering or exceed the scope of suffering. From beginning to end, they are surrounded by suffering, continuously tormented by suffering. It's like being in a fire pit that burns every day, or having no sense of security even for a moment, like the Rakshasa realm, where Rakshasa women devour beings daily. Or like already drowning in a whirlpool, where one will suffocate within minutes, or amidst sharp weapons, on the edge of sword blades, or fallen into a filthy pit. There cannot be even the slightest happiness. There's absolutely no opportunity for even the slightest peace. Completely in what some sutras describe as the Rakshasa realm, others as a nest of poisonous snakes. What I just mentioned from Buddhacharita, composed by Ashvaghosha, says the same. like dwelling together with poisonous snakes. How could there be even a moment's joy? A moment means one instant. How could there be a moment's happiness? Wise people see the world as surrounded by blazing fire. Intelligent people see this world as truly surrounded by raging flames. When you see flames rolling all around you, do you have any sense of peace within? Absolutely impossible, not even temporary peace. Completely in suffering, completely in terror. Wise people will want to leave the cycle of birth, aging, sickness, and death. The Sutra of Sublime Dharma of Clear Recollection also says, hell beings experience the fires of hell, hungry ghosts experience the suffering of hunger and thirst, animals experience the suffering of devouring each other, humans experience the suffering of short life. Asuras experience the suffering of conflict, heavenly realms experience the suffering of carelessness. Samsara is like the tip of a needle. There is never any happiness anywhere or any time. We have already extensively described this. That hell beings experience the suffering of cold and heat, freezing cold and blazing heat. Hungry ghosts day and night suffer from hunger, cold, and thirst. Animals are ignorant and are also used by humans. They devour each other. The large eat the small, and the small also pierce the bodies of the large. Humans have birth, aging, sickness, and death, and cannot avoid the three great sufferings. Asuras are constantly fighting day and night. There's never a moment of peace. The heavenly realms spend each day in carelessness, scattered attention, and laziness. In summary, all of samsara is like being impaled on a needle's tip. There cannot be even an instant, even a moment of happiness. Everything is completely in the waves of suffering. Maitreya also said, in the 5 realms there is no peace, just as there is no wonderful fragrance in an unclean room. As for the 5 realms, asuras are sometimes placed in the heavenly realms, sometimes among animals. In the 5 realms there is no peace, just as in an unclean room. Is there wonderful fragrance? Impossible. Guru Rinpoche Padmasambhava also said, the Buddha said samsara is like a needle's tip. There is never a time of peace. Even the slightest happiness turns into suffering. The Buddha said in relevant sutras that all of samsara is like a needle's tip. There is no time of happiness. There is no time of even a little peace. No time of happiness. Even if there's a little temporary happiness that appears to ordinary people, actually this happiness is completely a kind of suffering of change or conditioned suffering. Today you're very happy, but in an instant you experience various sufferings every day. Previously, the Sutra of the Wise and the Foolish said, all is impermanent, all that is born will die. The 3 realms are all suffering. Who can find peace? The 3 realms are all oceans of suffering. Who obtains peace? All phenomena are completely impermanent. After you are born, ultimately, whether your lifespan is long or short, in any case, you will depart very quickly. It's truly frightening. Sometimes when we see the true face of the world, we truly cannot help but develop renunciation towards samsara. Seeing so many disasters in the world occurring every day, from these worldly disasters, we should have some feelings about samsara. Not to mention many years ago. Recently, you see, a while back, there was a great drought in the southwest. Yunnan, Guizhou, Sichuan, nearly 5 provinces and cities were affected. About 50 million people. Basically, over 100 million people were affected by disaster. They had no water to drink. Countless animals all died from lack of water. Extremely painful. Many people tried every possible method to relieve this suffering. For example, they dug 1,000 wells, but at most 200 wells could produce a little water. Recently, there's been no way to solve this. The drought area may be getting wider and wider, affecting other provinces and cities too. A couple days ago, on March 28th, over 150 people were trapped in a coal mine in Jiangxi. Of the 153 people, some were rescued, some bodies were found, and some are still being searched for. This happened in Han Chinese areas. Looking at the world, on April 10th in Poland, including the president and his wife, as well as the foreign minister and central bank governor, including the chief of staff, navy, air force, and special forces, a total of 96 people died in a plane crash, all dead. However, they said the president's plane was already 26 years old and should have been replaced. But because their country has a democratic system, the president had no authority to replace it. Last year and the year before, they kept discussing it, but it wasn't approved. It's said that a few months ago there was major maintenance, so it should have been relatively good. But later, indeed, everyone died. They all died. So their country has now legislated that in the future, so many officials cannot travel together, otherwise the entire country would be paralyzed. Because the high-ranking officials from various departments, over 80 people were all senior officials, had already left the world very quickly. This morning, at about 7:49 a.m., a 7.1 magnitude earthquake occurred in Jiege Town, Yushu Prefecture, Qinghai. In one day, I just saw in some afternoon reports, they've now found bodies of possibly over 400 people with over 10,000 injured. They're still searching. Many communication facilities have been cut off, so there's no way. The number of people discovered later should be much higher. So today, everyone, the monastics together recited prayers, chanting Avalokiteshvara's mantra and Amitabha's name for dedication. Including in the future, when people hear the Dharma I teach, I hope many connected beings will help these deceased victims through the power and blessings of Avalokiteshvara and Amitabha Buddha. May they quickly be freed from suffering and find happiness. Actually, these people are very pitiful. When they never expected it, such disasters suddenly occurred. Some people now say that earthquakes and various disasters occur frequently, indicating the end of the world has arrived. There are such sayings in the world, but I don't think it's necessarily so. One or two events don't indicate the end of the world. Actually, humanity has now entered the 21st century, and indeed, in terms of external material life, development has been quite good compared to previous years. But human desire and greed are limitless, and the amount of killing of sentient beings is terrifying. Previously, I went to Qinghai area, killing yaks, sheep, various animals. Unlike before, even when Tibetans killed, they only used manual methods to kill 1 or 2 cattle, but now it's not like this. Some high-tech machines kill hundreds upon hundreds. All depart from this world in an instant. So when people's greed and desires become stronger and stronger, we should say that external disasters will continuously occur. So, thinking from all aspects, not to mention the conditions of heavenly and Ashura realms, which we cannot see, but from many examples we can hear and witness now, this world we live in, or our human realm, is there happiness? There should be none. Sometimes thinking about samsara, even if you temporarily feel some happiness, this happiness is like dewdrops on green leaves. It's shattered in an instant, gone in a moment. Such is its nature. Therefore, from this principle, we should develop genuine renunciation from our hearts. We should carefully contemplate such teachings, silently thinking, in this samsara of birth and death, from the highest summit of the 3 realms, the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception, down to the hell of ultimate torment, no matter where one is reborn, there is neither the slightest happiness nor any real meaning. What meaning is there in human life? We can think about it. If one doesn't achieve true liberation, being busy for livelihood all day, what truly ultimate matter is there? Therefore, we must completely cut attachment to samsara, like a person with gallbladder disease seeing greasy food, not developing longing or aspiration. Regarding all the sufferings of samsara, we absolutely cannot limit ourselves to superficially listening to teachings and understanding. Verbally, everyone says 3 realms of samsara, liberation from the ocean of suffering. Dharma teachers say it, lay practitioners say it. Ordinary worldly people say, life is suffering, the 5 aggregates are empty. They can say it verbally. But truly, developing renunciation towards samsara in our hearts is extremely important. We must experience these sufferings from the depths of our hearts. We must reach the level of unwavering conviction, not superficially, but from the heart. Oh, samsara truly has no real meaning. In the future, I absolutely must not be reborn in samsara. Once one comes to samsara, not to mention ordinary beings, even noble bodhisattvas may be tainted with some suffering. It's very difficult. Many bodhisattvas have said before, as long as one comes to this samsara, no matter what, one will experience suffering. Previously, Dampadeshek of the Kathok lineage, when he passed away, was said to be an 8th-level bodhisattva, but while in the world, he also manifestly experienced some suffering. From his biography, he also accepted suffering like worldly people normally do. So needless to say about ordinary beings, coming to samsara is definitely suffering. Some people say, you'd better not enter prison first. Once you enter prison, those guards will definitely beat you. A while ago, some young men from our area got into fights and were taken to the police station. Later, they didn't want to enter prison. They used various connections and came to me. After I spoke with those leaders, they agreed that detention for 15 days would be enough, saying, we absolutely won't beat them. A couple days ago they just came out. I asked, were you beaten? Oh my, who says they don't beat you once you enter prison? We were beaten. Those people are really bad. It's like this. As long as we're drowning in samsara, there is no happiness. From the heavenly realms above to the hells below, as long as one comes to this world, one will definitely suffer. On the surface, some people seem very happy, cheerful, and good, but actually they just don't show it. In their hearts, there are still endless, indescribable various kinds of suffering and afflictions definitely present. Therefore, truly developing renunciation from our hearts is extremely important. If one already has deep conviction, there's no need to deliberately guard against negative actions or rejoice in virtue. One will naturally abandon evil and practice good. If we have particularly firm renunciation in our mind stream, then there's no need to deliberately pretend on the surface. Today I'll meditate well, recite sutras well, putting on an act when seeing others, performing some virtuous deeds. Absolutely unnecessary, because if you truly have renunciation in your mind stream, you'll definitely be diligent every day and won't sleep in. Because we don't have true renunciation in our mind stream, all our actions are attachment to this life. Why are there so many busy people in the world, needless to say about worldly people, including some Buddhists? Why is their power in practicing virtue so weak? Including daily prostrations and practicing virtue, everyone feels, my body is tired, I can't do it, my mind is such and such. Often they don't practice virtue. Why? It's because we truly lack sufficient renunciation in our mind stream. Once renunciation is sufficient, naturally practicing virtue becomes for them a major task they must do. They'll definitely do it. Next, a story is told. An example is given. In the Buddhist Sutra of the Great Heap of Jewels, there's this story of Nanda's ordination. It's also in Sutra of the Collection of the Original Acts of the Buddha. I've looked at it. The story details seem to differ slightly, but actually this story is very famous. Whether regarding ordination or studying precepts, the issue of renunciation, without renunciation toward all of samsara, many practices become merely superficial. Below is such an example. In the Buddhist sutras, the accounts in two texts differ slightly, but actually the meaning is basically much the same. Long ago, the world-honored one's brother Nanda was attached to his wife, called Pundarika, also called White Lotus or Sundari. In some Chinese texts, it's written as Sundari. After they married, their affection was very deep. They mutually vowed never to separate for their whole lives, extremely unwilling to part. At the same time, they were both unwilling to ordain. Later, the Buddha used various skillful means to bring him into the Dharma. Once the Buddha discovered that the time and conditions for his conversion had ripened, he then went with Ananda and others to the city to seek alms. They went to Nanda's house along the way. At that time his wife was applying makeup. Nanda offered them some food and honey. The honey was given to Ananda to take back, but Ananda didn't accept it, so he prepared to accompany and send the Buddha and Ananda on their way. His wife requested of him, "If you're going, hurry back to me. You must return before the makeup I've applied dries. If you don't come, I'll settle accounts with you properly." Then he followed the Buddha and went, sending them to the monastery. The accounts differ somewhat. He put the things there and prepared to bid farewell and return. The Buddha told him not to go back, to wait for a while. Then he asked him to ordain. Nanda said, "I absolutely will not ordain. I don't want to. I can't bear to leave my wife." After the Buddha spoke with him, because of the Buddha's past life merit of respecting elders, he finally didn't dare refuse and prepared to take vows. Actually, the Buddha forced him to ordain. When preparing to shave his head, they called a barber. Nanda said, "Don't come near me. Whoever cuts my hair, I'll fight desperately." He prepared to punch him with his fist, so the barber didn't dare. One story says the Buddha called him over, "Welcome," and his hair and beard fell off by themselves. He had no choice but to ordain. There's also this account. Some say because of the Buddha's power. Finally, the Buddha had the barber shave his head. He didn't dare resist and reluctantly had it shaved. In any case, he was already ordained. After ordaining, Nanda's merit was actually great. The Buddha had 32 marks. Nanda lacked 2 and had 30 marks. After he ordained, like some monastics in our world, he felt that seeing the Buddha was quite majestic, so he made his own robes exactly like the Buddha's. When he frequently appeared among the monks, many monks thought the Buddha had come and were startled. But it was Nanda. Many people had complaints and later told the Buddha. They said it shouldn't be exactly the same as the Buddha's robes. Later the Buddha established that while the Buddha was alive, one couldn't wear robes identical to the Buddha's. When preparing to go out for alms, Nanda, being newly ordained, applied eye cosmetics, carried an umbrella, and wore leather shoes, wearing especially beautiful clothes, holding an umbrella, carrying his bowl, preparing to seek alms. At this time, many monks also complained and told the Buddha, "The way Nanda acts is undignified for a monastic." Later, the Buddha also established that generally monastics should wear discarded cloth robes. When going to beg for alms, or one cannot hold a bowl while carrying an umbrella, or wear leather shoes, etc. All these were established one by one. Also, because Nanda constantly missed his wife, whenever he had free time, he would paint beautiful women all day long. Many monks saw this and again told the Buddha. Later, the Buddha said that generally monastics cannot casually look at pictures of women or personally draw such images, otherwise they'll develop desire, etc. Later, he kept thinking about whether the Buddha would go out. When the Buddha went out, he would definitely go out to see his wife. Once, when the Buddha finally went out, he had Nanda watch over all the monks' rooms. First he had him clean thoroughly, then close any open doors after finishing. He thought he could quickly get the cleaning done, then prepare to go out, so he began sweeping frantically. After sweeping one side, dust would appear on the other side. It would take a very long time. Also, when he carried water, carrying one bucket here, when he prepared to carry another bucket, the other bucket would tip over. He was constantly busy beyond measure. Afterwards, he thought, forget it. I'll deal with it later. Let me close the doors first." But when he closed one door of the monks' quarters, another door would naturally open. Later he thought, "Oh, forget it. No matter what, if thieves come and things are stolen later, my family has plenty of money. I'll compensate." Then he stopped closing doors and began going out to his house. On the way to his house, he thought, "If I go by the main road, might I encounter the Buddha and the Sangha? I'd better take the small path." When taking the small path, suddenly the Buddha appeared from far away, coming along this path. He really had no choice. There was a tree there, so he hid behind the tree. Through his supernatural powers, the Buddha gradually made the tree fly into the sky. Finally he was exposed. Then the Buddha brought him back, possibly twice. Once he hid under a cliff, but finally was also exposed. After the Buddha brought him back twice, his attachment to his wife still hadn't been eliminated. He constantly thought, when will I be able to see her? Perhaps his wife was also waiting all along. Earlier, it was said that she wanted him to return before her makeup dried. Surely now the makeup was not only dry but had completely disappeared. Although he had already ordained, he didn't study the precepts. He kept thinking like this every day. Just when he was preparing to slip away, the Buddha, relying on various supernatural transformations, took him to Snow Mountain, also called Fragrant Intoxication Mountain. Pointing to a blind female monkey there, he asked him, "This blind monkey and your wife Sundari, which one is more beautiful? Which one looks better?" Nanda replied, "Of course it's my wife, 1,000,000 times incomparable to her." "Please don't say such things, they cannot be compared. This blind monkey is particularly ugly, 1,000,000 times incomparable to her." Then the Buddha said, "In that case, through supernatural powers and other means, let me help you develop renunciation in your mind stream." Later he said, "Would you like to go to the heavenly realms to see the celestial palaces?" He said, "Yes. If you're willing, hold on to my robes and we can go to the heavenly realms." So Nanda held on to the Buddha's Dharma robes and instantly soared to the heaven of 33. Arriving at the heaven of 33, the world-honored one sat in one place and let Nanda go look around by himself. Nanda wandered through various gardens and palaces in the heavenly realms. He saw that everywhere gods were in their respective infinite palaces, surrounded by groups of goddesses, enjoying inconceivable heavenly bliss. Finally, he came to a palace hall without any god, where he found many goddesses but not a single god. Nanda was puzzled and couldn't help asking what the reason was. The goddesses said, "In the human realm there is the world-honored one's brother Nanda. If he maintains pure precepts, he will be able to be reborn in the heavenly realms in the future. These goddesses and celestial palace are all prepared for him." At that time, Nanda was extremely happy. He said, "I've already come. No need for the future. I'm willing to stay here now." Then the goddesses told him, "That won't work. You must go back down now and truly maintain the precepts. If you don't maintain the precepts, just wanting to stay here won't allow you to remain, because truly being reborn in the heavenly realms requires long-term precept keeping and concentration. Much effort is needed. This time you came relying on the Buddha's concentration power and supernatural power. It's not possible. It's like some tourists who go to monasteries and want to ordain there. I want to ordain. But that won't work. You still need to go out and handle the relevant procedures. Without doing this, just wanting to stay might not be so easy. So at that time, the goddesses didn't permit it and had him return. Finally, his heart was still suffering when he came down. After coming down, when he met the world-honored one, his heart was still very happy. When returning to the world-honored one's presence, the world-honored one asked, "Did you see the heavenly realms? How were the conditions there?" He said he had already seen them. Then the world-honored one asked again, "The goddesses and your wife Pundarika, which one looks better? Which one is more beautiful?" Nanda said it was the goddesses. In comparison, that white lotus is exactly like the blind monkey from before. There's truly a world of difference. I originally thought the beautiful women in the human realm were very attractive, but compared to the goddesses, they really can't be compared. Now I still have hope. After he came to the human realm, there was no need to tell him anymore. He also developed renunciation toward his wife. Then he maintained pure precepts, not like before. He was very conscientious, constantly maintaining pure precepts. At this time, the world-honored one told all the other monks, "Nanda ordained only to be reborn in the higher realms and obtain merit. You ordained to obtain liberation and nirvana from the 3 realms of samsara, so the paths you're walking are completely different. Therefore, from now on, you cannot speak with Nanda, you cannot talk freely with him, or sit together with him. Even your robes cannot be hung on the same wooden pole. You also cannot eat together, recite sutras together, or place your bottles and bowls together." It was like treating someone with an infectious disease in a group. His requirements for the monks were very strict. As a result, because the monks constantly ignored him, his heart was very distressed. He thought, "The other monks have abandoned me. There may be some reason for this, but Ananda is my brother after all. He should care for me." So he went to Ananda. At that time, Ananda seemed to be sewing clothes. Unexpectedly, Ananda was the same as the other monks. As soon as he saw Nanda coming, he immediately got up and left. He was particularly unhappy and followed Ananda, asking, "What exactly are you all doing? Everyone looks at me as if I'm particularly disgusting. What exactly did I do wrong?" He was very sad and asked Venerable Ananda. Then Ananda told him everything in detail. The world-honored one said, "Your motivation and purpose is only for human and heavenly merit. We want to attain liberation, so we have completely different goals from you." Only then did he know that it was the world-honored one who told them not to pay attention to him. His heart was very sad, no matter what. Among the many in the human realm, among the monks, they ignored him and said his goal was impure. But he himself, because all his life he had been attached to beautiful women in the human realm before, and now was attached to goddesses in the heavenly realm. His mind stream had great attachment. Some Vinaya texts say that among the Buddha's disciples, the one with the greatest anger was Angulimala, who finally also attained arhathood. The one with the greatest attachment was Nanda, who also finally attained arhathood. The reason is also this, because all his life he was a lay practitioner, told me. Everything else about me is fine, but emotional problems have always ruined me for a long time. I particularly hate this emotion. So Nanda was also very hurt and very sad. At this time, the world-honored one told Nanda, "Do you want to go see hell?" Nanda replied, originally when he was very painful, "Going there would be fine. I'd like to visit hell too." Then the Buddha told him, "If you really want to go, hold on to my robes again. I'll use supernatural powers to take you to hell." Then they went to hell together. When they arrived in hell, he let Nanda go, look by himself. Nanda went and saw the entire hell scene, cutting, killing, suffering, all kinds of torments. The Buddhist sutras say that he saw many hell beings experiencing various kinds of suffering. Some had their bodies completely cut apart. Some were being destroyed in large cauldrons. Seeing so many situations at that time, he was particularly afraid. Seeing each situation, he was particularly terrified. Then he looked one by one. Finally, he saw an empty cauldron in one hell realm. Below it burned raging flames, with many hell guards surrounding it. He couldn't help asking, "There are no sentient beings in the cauldron. You're just burning an empty cauldron. Won't it burn through?" "What's the reason?" he asked them. The hell guards told him, "We're now waiting for someone." He said, "Who are you waiting for?" "The world-honored one's brother Nanda maintains precepts to obtain human and heavenly happiness. Then he'll be reborn in the heavenly realms. After enjoying heavenly bliss, when his good karma is exhausted, he'll fall into this." After hearing this, he was extremely frightened. One sutra says that some hell guards had already recognized him. "Oh, you've come now." Then they prepared to seize him, but he said, "No, I'm returning to the human realm now." In the heavenly realms, he wanted very much to stay but couldn't. But in hell, the guards welcomed him to come early to constantly experience suffering, but he ran away saying, "No, I still need to go back." Then he ran back. His heart felt particularly afraid. Returning to the human realm from then on, the Buddha also asked, "Did you see it?" He said, "I saw it." "How was it?" He said, "Too frightening. I definitely cannot maintain precepts for human and heavenly merit when I return." After he returned, he was also very conscientious. He deeply realized that even if reborn in heaven, one will ultimately fall into the lower realms. Actually, the content of this story is indeed very profound. Each of us must understand such principles. The results of higher realms likewise have no real meaning. Genuine renunciation arose in his mind stream. At that time, he truly felt that no matter where in the three realms of samsara, there is no true happiness. At that time, genuine and unmistaken renunciation arose. So when we discuss the Vinaya, when first ordaining and receiving precepts, one doesn't necessarily have renunciation. At that time, perhaps many people might seek to obtain some kind of happiness, especially those who haven't studied and reflected before. There's a kind of happiness, including myself when I first ordained. I seemed to feel that monastics were very dignified, that monastics seemed very pure. I had such a purpose. I didn't think about the three realms of samsara. Many things I didn't think about. Some monastics even want to be reborn in heaven. They have such purposes. Therefore, even if one lacks renunciation at first, does one receive the precept essence? According to some Vinaya masters, one should receive the precept essence. Why? Because initially Nanda hadn't developed true renunciation either. He maintained precepts due to the Buddha's force or to be reborn in heaven. But finally, he truly developed firm renunciation, precisely because he had personally witnessed all the conditions of hell. Afterwards, his pure precepts and discipline were spotless. He never violated even the subtle training rules, because he had truly seen the conditions of hell. From then on, he had no choice but to be careful. He would definitely be especially careful. So in the world-honored one's teachings, Nanda was foremost in guarding the sense doors, that is, in subduing the sense doors. He paid particular attention to the precepts. Among all disciples regarding Nanda's maintenance of pure precepts, originally his attachment was so severe, his attachment to his wife and to goddesses was so intense, but later, after truly seeing the conditions of hell, he was fundamentally transformed. Many of our Dharma friends, when they were householders before, had extremely blazing afflictions in their mind streams, but after ordaining, there are indeed earth-shaking changes, including their behavior and mindset. Many afflictions naturally subside. This is the power of the Dharma. Everyone should be able to obtain it. But many people in the three realms probably lack this ability. So we now indeed need to see the suffering of the three realms. This point is very important. For noble beings it's easy, but ordinary beings don't know the suffering within. So the Buddha said in the Sutra on Cause and Effect in the Past and Present, the Bodhisattva, with divine eye, observed the 5 paths. The 5 paths refer to the 5 paths of the 3 realms of samsara. He arose great compassion and reflected, in the 3 realms there is not a single pleasure. There is such a scriptural citation. When the Buddha observed the conditions of the 5 paths with divine vision, there wasn't one that didn't arouse compassion, seeing beings doing meaningless things every day, knowing there isn't a drop of happiness to speak of in the 3 realms. But do ordinary beings know this? They themselves have no idea at all. Some people, for example when drinking alcohol and already intoxicated, feel they're already very happy, but actually they're taking madness for happiness. I seem to remember it's also said in the Mahaprajna Paramita Sutra, foolish beings are attached to dwelling in the 6 destinies. In the burning house of birth and death, they don't know how to escape. Ordinary beings are attached to the 6 realms of samsara, treating it as a garden, treating it as a place of happiness. No, they're extremely foolish. But the true samsara of birth and death is actually like a burning house or an ocean, a whirlpool, or what we discussed before, forests of weapons, etc. There's no difference from these at all. When wise people see this, they cannot help but develop renunciation. But fools are constantly attached. So many of us present through this study of the words of my perfect teacher should see through this life from within our hearts. Many great masters in the Han region and the teachings of some enlightened ones say, after seeing through, let go, see through, be at ease. After we completely see through, we can let go. Or after letting go, we can see through, then attain ease. When seeing through, what do we see through? See through this life, all the glory, wealth, and riches of this lifetime. See through future lives, all the various things of the 3 realms of samsara. If you see through this life, but want to be reborn in the heavenly realms in future lives, to be reborn more beautiful and wealthy, then actually you haven't seen through either. I think so-called seeing through doesn't necessarily mean your family property and wealth of this life. Just as explained in 3 principal aspects of the path, precious human life and impermanence, see through this life, suffering of samsara and karmic cause and effect, see through future lives. Seeing through this life and future lives naturally generates genuine renunciation. With renunciation, any dharma becomes easy to accomplish. Without this point, it's indeed very difficult. But now many people in cities study Buddhism for the blessing of peace and happiness in their lives. Buddha, you must bless me. I'm offering you 100 yuan today. You must remember, wherever I go all the time, I often call your name. You should also often open your eyes and look at me. If there are unsafe things on my road, you must sweep them away for me. I heard of a leader who put 100 yuan in front of a Buddha statue and said this. So does his purpose have renunciation? Definitely not. He just wants to go wherever he wants. Especially in the process of corruption, he probably must succeed. Just joking. I don't dare say such things, right? It should be. Nowadays, corruption phenomena are quite serious. So truly gaining liberation from samsara is very important for practitioners. For worldly people, they're numb and insensitive to this matter. We often see so-called Buddhist practitioners. Many are only superficial, only external, without deep understanding. Not to mention the great perfection and great middle way. These are even more unnecessary to mention. Among the 5 preliminaries, the common preliminary of samsara's suffering, many people have no feeling at all in their mind streams, yet they themselves speak as if they're really excellent, considering themselves to be Buddhas. They casually make a lotus for themselves and sit on it, thinking, I've already become a Buddha, how happy. Such phenomena, many principles they don't understand. This we can also understand because they think becoming a Buddha or being a bodhisattva is equivalent to being a successful entrepreneur among people or a relatively wealthy person. Beyond this, there may be no merits to speak of. They may think this way, but those of us who truly study the Dharma deeply should have in our mind streams faith in the Buddha, renunciation towards samsara, and compassion for sentient beings. Within such a framework, our practice should have some hope. Otherwise, it may just be theoretical talk. Actually, the true Buddha path could be said to be quite distant, so when everyone studies and practices, you should examine your own heart. No matter how much you say, it's useless if you truly want. From Nanda's story just now, we also know our direction and goal of study, whether you're a monastic or lay practitioner. Oh, originally in the 3 realms of samsara, one must indeed attain transcendence before there can be eternal happiness. You'll understand this principle. So, in the Han region's ritual of refuge and reverence for the disciples of Shakya, it often says, in heaven and earth, I alone am honored. The 3 realms are all suffering. There is no happiness. So the Buddha came here. In this world, the only Holy One is the Buddha. The ocean of suffering in the 3 realms actually has no happiness. Each of us should also know this point. Especially the Buddha indeed told us the true principle that the 3 realms are all suffering. Apart from this, no other religious leader or worldly Brahmins or Brahma gods have spoken this truth. Of course, this truth is very profound. Except for those with karmic connections, others cannot accept it. Good. We'll stop here.
Bandharangara Badna Sadarda Bandharangara Badna Sadarda Bandharangara Badna Sadarda